Hello there. Welcome back to Empower Your Soul. Today is a requested topic from my dear Mediumship Mastermind diva. I want to call you a diva because you're so funny and so fun. Carol, who asked, what should you do in a mediumship reading if it starts to go blank or black? And it's such a good question. And I think it's so interesting, this question, because there's so many answers at so many different levels. So I'm going to talk about beginners. What does it look like when something goes black? What should you do? We can talk about like intermediate and then advanced as well, because there's many different reasons why the communication with spirit seemingly stops in the middle of a reading. So this is for all levels out there, and this is why I love working with spirit, because there's so many different things. And what I explained today, and these are my personal experiences, and you might have a different one. So write in, tell me about it. podcast@mediumnicole.com. So when you are in a mediumship reading and it starts going blank, if you are a beginner, there can be a couple things that happen. Number one can be that when you are beginning the process of mediumship, it takes a lot of energy to learn how to connect with spirit. It's not hard, but it's almost like you have to get used to sitting in the vibration of spirit. So if you are doing this all the time, you might find that you essentially run out of gas. You run out of energy to connect with spirit. And so that connection essentially gets disconnected because you are so tired, you've been practicing a lot, and or you just can't hold that connection for a really long time. And I want you to know that is completely normal. I promise you, maybe in all of these circumstances, spirit didn't walk away. Spirit didn't go anywhere. But you need to recognize kind of which of these is most true for you. And you'll know that because you'll feel it. You'll be like, oh, that was it. That was what happened. So the most common problem for beginners is that you just can't stay connected that long. And it's like building a muscle. It's like going to the gym. You need to start with the very lighter weights. You're going to start with very short practice sessions, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then as you do more and more of this work, you can start holding that connection with spirit for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes, for 45, for an hour. I mean, I've freaking read for 3.5 hours before, right? Like it's just a muscle that you have to learn to build how to stay in that connection. Not hard, but it's like marathon training. It just takes a little bit of time. So number one is just you've run out of energy. Number two is that you have lowered your vibration. Now this is different to me because when you run out of energy, you run out of energy. Like you just can't connect anymore. This is like, I need to stop. I need to rest before I try this again. But this second one I'm talking about is you are still there. You still have energy to connect, but it's gone blank. 10 times out of 10, I'm going to do 99.9% of the time for beginners and intermediate. All this means is that your brain got in the way most of the time. And when your brain gets in the way and your brain starts to try to analyze the information that you're receiving from spirit, your brain and your ego turns on and your intuition kind of takes a back seat. And so when that brain and that ego turns on, welcome back to the physical vibration. Welcome back to the reality of Mother Earth. You are no longer as greatly connected to spirit as you just were a moment ago. Now, again, spirit is there. So all you have to do is essentially push your brain aside, turn off that thinking brain, make things blank again, and connect back to spirit like you do at the beginning of your reading. And stop freaking thinking, okay? I know. It's really hard to do as a medium, but we do have to kind of stop our brain from trying to take over. And that, again, is one of the biggest problems that we as mediums face. I still face it today because we need to be able to turn off our brain to receive from spirit. So as soon as you turn your brain on, you're no longer receiving from spirit. You're in your head. You're not connecting. So if that happens, I really do advise my students, take your brain, literally push it to the side. It's just like meditation, everybody, and just reconnect with spirit, make your mind blank, and ask spirit to step in again. So that's kind of advice number two. Like 2B or 2A, 2B, the side thing I want to say is sometimes as well, and this we're getting into a little bit of intermediate territory here, your brain can think, and you might be wondering what's next. So maybe you got this feeling from a dead uncle that he died of cancer. And you're like, okay, what kind of cancer? How old was he? Was he in the hospital? Was it a long passing or was it a very quick passing? So you're actually like thinking about things he just said, and you're trying to get into like, okay, so I want to know what's next. And you start reaching for the information. Now, keep in mind, mediumship is receiving. And so when you start thinking about questions and you start reaching out to grab the information, that turns mediumship into psychic. And for me personally, my team flags that for me by either shutting off the transmission of information, so they'll stop the connection for me and tell me, nope, you're not allowed to do that, and or they will give me false information. So I guess this is more of a 2A. When I'm getting yes, 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 and then I start getting no, 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 and the connection is just the same or crystal clear, and I feel like I'm getting it, I know they're feeding me bad information because I'm reading it incorrectly. And that's how my team keeps me honest that this is mediumship. I am not reaching for information. I am receiving a communication and giving it to you. And I know that doesn't seem like, oh, here we go, rabbit hole. This doesn't seem like a big deal, I think, for a lot of people, but for me, it's huge. For me, this is about the integrity of mediumship versus psychic, because how many of you get your news from biased sources? Well, let me see if I can say that. How many of you go after purposely biased news sources because you want to hear it a certain way? That to me is like psychic. I'm going to go and I'm going to get the information that I want, and I'm going to go get the information that I expect, and I'm going to report on that information back to you. Whereas mediumship is, I'm just going to open it up, and whatever the news is what the news is. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. I'm still going to receive that and give it to you. So to me, mediumship and staying in this receiving mode is the most ethical way to get unbiased information from spirit, and allows me the clearest path to deliver what spirit wants me to deliver, essentially. So there was my little rabbit hole for a moment there. So yes, so when the information for me goes blank and or it starts going completely wrong, even though it looks crystal clear, that's my cue. I'm in the wrong vibration. I'm in psychic and I'm not in mediumship. So that's a little bonus one that I don't think happens to a lot of people, but it happens to me. Maybe it happens to you. That'd be cool. As we move forward into maybe some of the more intermediate/advanced reasons why a reading might go blank. And this is actually from another woman in the mediumship course, Jess. Hey, Jess. Hey, girl. Hey, Carol. Hey, Jess. And from her perspective, and I love that she shared this with the group. I hope you don't mind me stealing your thunder, Jess. She identified that the reading can start to slow down or pause when it has something to do with the personality of the sitter. And I think this is big because I personally didn't even think about this. So thank you for sharing this with the group, Jess. This is what the mastermind is all about. Everyone's different perspectives. Because from her perspective, when a spirit goes quiet, she knows something big is about to happen. She knows something not great about the spirit, not great about the relationship. Generally, that's kind of her cue that something bad is about to be said, something that they're not happy with or they're not proud of in their lifetime. So that might just be an energetic vibration reset for you as the medium to know kind of what's coming through next. Because you will, it's the energetic equivalent of, hey, do you have a minute? Like that's what it is. The pause is hey, do you have a minute? So pay attention to that if you're getting that energetic pause from spirit. And then also, I think this is interesting because for me, if they're really quiet in the beginning of a reading, that to me is always personality. So pause for effect. So for me, when spirits start talking, or I've invited them in and I can feel them there, but they're not talking, that's always a personality thing for me. I'm like, okay, so either they're really shy, they're very quiet, they don't like talking. So I'll kind of feel into the energy of the quietness, because usually there's a huge message in the quietness, which is kind of what Jess was alluding to. So for those of you that are more intermediate advanced, I would recommend you take the sign of a pause or quietness as an indicator that spirit has something to say to you, and you need to figure out what it is, because I promise you again that spirit has not gone anywhere. So feel into the silence. If you see black, feel into the black color. What does it feel like? Is it happy? Is it sad? Right? Is it anxious? Is it nervous? Is it angry? Like, because there's so many different feelings that can come from not wanting to express something. And I think that's the common thread with not getting that vibration, not getting that information from spirit, is that they want to express something, but they can't, or they don't know how to. But I don't think that's a spirit doesn't know how to. It's a piece of evidence that you need to now figure out, what's this missing puzzle piece? Can you tell me more about this? And I do have to clarify that when you're feeling into the energy of the blackness, that isn't psychic, because they've already sent you the blackness and now you're trying to interpret it. Now you're trying to interpret the silence. So you don't want to hold on to it for too long, because that's when our brain is going to kick in. Like I talked about at the beginning, you're going to lower your vibration. It's not going to go well. But you can take the blackness and just put your energy right into it and say, what does it feel like? What can I learn from it? Because it's kind of like a present. They've given you a present. It's a black box, and you don't know what it is yet. So it's okay to take that black box present and be investigative about it and curious about it, and see where does it lead? Where are you supposed to go? What does it do? And then spirit will guide you through that to what needs to be said next. And so I'm gonna challenge everybody, and challenge you, Carol, in particular, is that I think everything I've said today, especially if you're intermediate advanced, like, check it, see if it makes sense to you, but don't limit yourself to what I have explained that blackness is, that lack of communication is, because I think it's going to be different for you, and it's going to be different for a lot of the spirits out there, because there's so much when you start combining your clairs. There's so much, like, it's just like our regular communication, right? If someone says they're happy, but they're actually crying, are they happy? Right? Like, because as we know, what's on the outside doesn't necessarily reflect the inside, right? And just because the energy is black doesn't always mean it's bad. Maybe it's a surprise party. Actually, that did happen once. Spirit got me there, because one time it was all black, and then they turned the lights on and they said surprise. So it was like a surprise birthday, that party that I had to like relay to my client, right? So it really can be anything associated with it. So this really comes down to, how do you feel about it? Because if you're connected, and you're curious, and you're starting to go through your other clairs, that's what you should be doing, right? If you're a more advanced medium, and you can be like, what am I picking up on here? What have I seen before that reflects this? If you're newer and you're not sure if that spirit's there, you need to check your connection. You need to be like, am I at the right vibration? Do I need to connect again to make sure I'm at this right connection? And then if you are still not getting anything after trying to reset that connection, that's your cue that it's probably time to rest, or that spirit has nothing else to say, move along to the next one. So it really is an art, and not so much a science with a lot of this stuff. Even as simple as, I'm not getting anything, can have, how many, 20, 30, 40 infinite answers in terms of what does that mean for the reading, for the sitter, for the information that's about to come in. Like there's so many different dynamics here. And honestly, I'm not going to say this every time, but I would always encourage you to experiment. You can always bring that spirit back in after you're done with the sitter and say, can you explain? Can you show me again? Could you show it to me in a different way? Because even if you're next, because I know a lot of you that do practice sessions, they're fast. They're 8, 10, 15 minutes tops, and you don't always have time to really go down the rabbit hole with the spirit to interpret it, to really understand it soup to nuts. And so you can always call that spirit back in at the end of the reading to say, tell me more. What did I miss? How did I do? Because that is going to be your key to learning, including writing it down and journaling what you uncovered. And I think that's key as well, is just like write it down so you can start tracking and trending. I said it, tracking and trending what you're getting from spirit, because the more that you start recognizing the patterns, the faster it is for you to learn how spirit communicates for you, which is what mediumship makes, which is what I promise I'm going to have a sip of coffee after this, which is what makes working with spirit so difficult, is because we as mediums have to invent essentially our own language with spirit. Yes. I mean, it is. There is common threads with everybody else's mediumship and how they communicate with spirit, but you're going to have your own communication with spirit because it has to come from your own brain. It has to come from your own energy, and everyone's energy is like an energetic fingerprint. It's all different. So yeah. So I hope that answered your question, Carol. It was a really, really good one. And if you have any more questions, I would love to answer for you. If you have mediumship questions, like I'm all about it. I will share the wealth. You just ask me what you want me to talk about. I will absolutely talk about it. Podcast@mediumnicole.com. Thank you so much, everybody. From my soul to yours, I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.